This is a movie so terrifying that even ghosts would be afraid to watch it. It is said to be based on a true incident from Xiaoqi City in Taiwan province. The director, in an insane effort to make the film realistic, chose Minxiong Haunted House, the most famous of the 4 haunted houses, as the filming location. The entire film is full of intense moments. Hurry and tag your unfortunate friends to watch it together. A young couple came to a swimming pool to swim. To swim more comfortably, Xiaoqi removed the protective jade pendant that her grandmother gave her. Little did she know, this act would attract a terrible evil. Suddenly, Xiaoqi was pulled underwater by something. Her boyfriend, Aji, saw what was happening and immediately jumped into the water to rescue her. He clearly saw that Xiaoqi was being pulled by a headless female ghost. It turned out that Aji had been born with yin-yang eyes and had followed his grandfather into the funeral business. His grandfather once gave him an evil warding bracelet. Perhaps it was this bracelet that had a deterrent effect, because the female ghost suddenly disappeared with a sinister laugh. Nearby people rescued Xiaoqi, but once you provoke something unclean, it's not easy to get rid of it. Soon, the ghost festival arrived. Xiaoqi and her mother accompanied her grandmother to sweep the graves. However, during the worship ceremony, strange things happened. Xiaoqi seemed to be possessed and uncontrollably walked away. She arrived at an old stone tomb, surrounded by talismans as if something was being suppressed, but Xiaoqi boldly opened the small door. Thus began a terrifying nightmare. As night fell, Xiaoqi's grandmother and mother realized she was missing and began searching for her anxiously. Unbeknownst to them, Xiaoqi, possessed by a ghost, had wandered into a gloomy, terrifying old house. This was a place her grandmother had strictly forbidden her from approaching. Under the ghost's influence, Xiaoqi climbed to the 3rd floor, holding a large knife to cut the chains. She then approached a door covered with talismans. At that moment, thunder and lightning filled the sky, as if something terrible was about to happen. After entering the room, Xiaoqi skillfully reached under the bed and retrieved a long sealed jar, holding it high in the air. Unable to locate Xiaoqi, her mother and grandmother immediately called the police. According to clues from the nearby villagers, someone saw Xiaoqi walking in the direction of the old house. With the police escorting them, they rushed to the old house immediately. But as soon as they opened the car door, the officer felt a chill down his spine and quickly retreated to the car, refusing to come out. Because of the house's infamous reputation, no one dared to enter it lightly. Back at home, Xiaoqi's grandmother discovered that the 3rd floor door had been opened. She hurriedly made a phone call, muttering that it was all over now. Seeing that the call could not get through, she ran out the door in a hurry, saying she needed to quickly find a Taoist priest to resolve the trouble. Meanwhile, as soon as the grandmother left, Xiaoqi's mother immediately went upstairs to search for Xiaoqi. The room was eerily terrifying, with broken urns scattered everywhere, making Xiaoqi's mother's hair stand on end. On the mirror in front of her, several blood-red words had appeared unknowingly. As Shengxin leaned in to examine it, she suddenly discovered that, in the reflection, a comb was brushing her hair. A dress also silently floated behind her. Shengxin was just about to escape through the door, but at this moment, the door suddenly slammed shut. No matter how hard she pulled, it wouldn't open. Despair engulfed her, and Shengxin could no longer hold back her loud cries. However, what shattered Shengxin even more were a few drops of blood that completely broke her mental defenses. She opened the cabinet door in the room and crawled inside. But just then, a pair of large hands suddenly yanked open the cabinet door. It turned out to be Xiaoqi's boyfriend, Aji, who had found the place. Earlier in the afternoon, he had planned to watch a movie with Xiaoqi, but not long after, Xiaoqi suddenly went missing and could not be contacted. Worried, Aji came to Xiaoqi's house, hearing screams from upstairs. He rushed up, seeing Shengxin, who introduced herself as Xiaoqi's mother. Aji was very surprised, because Xiaoqi had never mentioned her mother to him. Just as Aji was looking Shengxin up and down, the mirror behind them suddenly shattered, but strangely, even without the mirror glass, it still reflected light. At this moment, Xiaoqi's crying could be heard coming from the mirror. The two of them slowly approached. Aji cautiously reached out his hand and discovered that the mirror could actually be passed through. Thus, the two of them crawled one after another through the mirror into another space. Everything here looked very old, completely out of place with this era's style. Through the window of the room, Shengxin saw her daughter Xiaoqi crying as she walked toward the well in the courtyard. Xiangxin quickly chased after her, but still couldn't catch Xiaoqi. Just as Xiangxin was overcome with grief, a hand suddenly reached out from the well and grabbed her. Seeing that Xiangxin was about to be dragged in, Aji quickly rushed over to help. Fortunately, Aji was capable. And after some effort, he successfully rescued Xiangxin from the hands. Xiangxin then realized that the girl jumping into the well wasn't Xiaoqi, but an illusion created by the evil spirit. The two of them immediately fled back into the house and hid under the shrine table where Xiaoqi's grandmother worshipped. Thinking they would be safe this time, to their shock, the table was violently overturned. It turned out the grandmother wasn't worshipping any gods, but rather an unknown evil cult. The table was flipped in an instant, truly defying expectations, as the two of them got up. The offerings behind them also fell over. One terrifying event after another caused Xiangxin to curse out loud. Suddenly, she seemed to hear someone calling her name. Following the voice, she slowly went upstairs. Ozzy, following behind, noticed something strange. Xiangxin arrived upstairs and saw Xiaoqi playing the piano. When Xiaoqi saw her mother, the girl suddenly gave a chilling smile. Then she grabbed a pair of scissors and tried to kill herself. Seeing this, Xiangxin quickly rushed forward to stop her, shouting desperately, Just as the two were preparing to return the way they came, Ozzy discovered that the mirror had turned into solid matter. Now their only escape route was sealed off. At this moment, the grandmother's voice came from downstairs. It turned out she had invited the Taoist priest Akai to seal the well, however. Because they were in different spaces, no matter how loudly the two shouted, they could not be heard. Soon, the grandmother and Akai arrived on the third floor. Akai noticed that the formation he had placed under the bed was broken, and immediately realized that she had returned and possessed Xiaoqi. He instructed the grandmother to take out a photograph from under the bed. And the person in the photo looked exactly like Xiangxin. It turned out the person in the photo was named Dexin, Xiangxin's twin sister. Despite both being daughters, Dexin was not loved by their mother during her lifetime. And even in death, she was cruelly dismembered by their mother. Her fragmented corpse was buried in the bamboo forest, while her head was thrown into the ancient well. Even her hair and pieces of clothing were collected and sealed under the bed, all to ensure that she would never be reincarnated. The reason the grandmother did this to her own daughter was because she firmly believed that Dexin would bring ruin to the He family. The He family was once a prominent family. When the grandmother was young, she and her husband, Master He, had 3 children, 1 son and 2 daughters. But when the children were still young, Master He mysteriously shot himself one night after her husband's strange death. The grandmother had to raise the 3 children on her own, enduring hardships that only she knew. However, misfortune did not stop with her husband's death. Her eldest son, Li Ming, soon drowned, and the reason for his death was simply that he tried to retrieve a shoe for the youngest daughter. Dexin, devastated, the grandmother firmly believed that Dexin was cursed, and after her death, cruelly dismembered her body. But from Dexin's perspective, everything was another story, because their mother favored sons over daughters. She always cared more for the brother while neglecting the feelings of her 2 daughters. As a result, Dexin and her sister Xiangxin comforted each other and shared a close bond. One day, Xiangxin's shoe accidentally fell into the river. The brother drowned while trying to retrieve the shoe for her. Afraid of being blamed by their mother, Xiangxin grabbed Dexin's shoe and placed the blame on her sister. No matter how much Dexin explained, their mother saw it as lies. From that day onward, the burden of her brother's death fell on Dexin, and she no longer trusted her sister. The so-called sisterly love and the moments of combing each other's hair were just lies, day after day. Dexin's mental state deteriorated. Her mother stubbornly believed she was possessed and invited Kai and others she trusted to exorcise her. But it was this very act that brought tragedy upon her daughter. Kai, the so-called Taoist priest, used the exorcism as a cover to violate Dexin. As she was being taken away, Dexin cried out desperately for her sister to help. But Shengxin ignored her cries. This deeply shattered Dexin's heart. After returning home, Dexin didn't know how to tell anyone about what had happened to her. Suffering immense pain and torment, she once again turned to her sister for comfort. But at that time, Shengxin had just been abandoned by her husband, upset and preoccupied. She didn't notice her sister's cry for help. Instead, she responded harshly. Dexin chose to jump into the well, ending her life. But even after Dexin's death, Kai returned again and sought out Madame He. To ensure the safety of the entire family, the grandmother believed Kai's deceitful words and separated her daughter's corpse. Her body was turned to ashes and buried in the bamboo forest. While her head was thrown into the well, Kai also performed a ritual to suppress Dexin. But in reality, he was just afraid of his evil deeds. He feared that after death, Dexin would return as a ghost to take revenge on him. It is often said that those who have no guilt need not fear ghosts knocking at the door, but Kai, who was guilty, was not afraid when the ghost came knocking. Instead, he thought about how to defeat her. He was truly stubborn and unrepentant. Kai drew talismans on the back of Dexin's photograph and handed it to the grandmother. He told her to shout Dexin's name while slapping the photograph hard, facing her already rebellious daughter. The grandmother felt reluctant, but for the sake of her granddaughter Xiaoqi, she still followed Kai's instructions. As the ritual began, the illusion surrounding Shengxin also started to collapse. At this moment, Kai sensed something was wrong. Dexin had finally left Xiaoqi's body, but after leaving, where did she go? Kai and the grandmother were searching the area when a headless female ghost suddenly grabbed the grandmother's neck. Kai quickly pulled out his sword to fight back, but as the saying goes, the power of evil always surpasses the righteous in the next second. The grandmother was possessed by Dexin. The grandmother picked up a machete and struck Kai repeatedly, thus ending Kai's life, finally avenging herself. Meanwhile, Aji also escaped from the illusion. After settling Xiaoqi in a safe place, he encountered the possessed grandmother. The grandmother, holding a knife, forced Aji into the courtyard, indicating for him to break open the well cover and climb down. Aji had no choice but to comply. Once he was down, he dug through the soil and found a spherical bundle. Unclear of what it was, Aji assumed that this must be what the ghost wanted. After climbing back up, Aji opened the bundle, only to discover that inside was a human head. It turned out this was Dexin's head, which had been thrown into the well. Everything that happened to Dexin was deeply connected to Kai. He was burdened with grave sins, so he deserved the fate that befell him. But what hurt Dexin the most was her mother. It would not be wrong to call her the root cause of everything. Why could her mother be so cruel? She was her child too. Did sacrificing her really ensure the family's safety? Carrying her grief and resentment, Dexin controlled her mother's body and repeatedly bowed to her severed head, trying to punish her mother for her sins in this way. But when she did so, she felt no satisfaction in revenge, only deep sadness. Even though she had her head returned, she could not sever her love for her family. If her mother died, there would be no one left to care for Xiaoqi, Shengxin's daughter. Considering this, Dexin stopped in time and did not harm her mother's life. However, she made a final request to Azi. It turned out that Shengxin had died when Xiaoqi was very young. But Shengxin could never accept the reality of her death. She wanted to stay and take care of her daughter Xiaoqi at some point. Even Shengxin herself forgot that she was dead. Xiaoqi and the grandmother could not see Shengxin, whether at the graveyard, during the search for Xiaoqi, or on the car ride home.
以后不管发生什么事，我都会陪你的。
你终于来陪我了，下辈子也要一起。
The next day, the grandmother was arrested for killing Akai. After learning the truth, she did not resist, but simply sat there blankly. At this moment, guilt and remorse overwhelmed her, making her unresponsive to any external stimuli. Ashi and Xiaoqi held a memorial ceremony. To release the spirits of Dexin and Shengxin, Xiaoqi chose not to return home, but decided to live at school when they visited the grandmother in prison. They discovered that she had gone insane. Perhaps she could not accept her own actions. The now insane grandmother kept talking about her deceased son, as if doing so would turn back time.
你明啊，妈妈跟你讲哦，你在外面哦，心通我袂交女朋友哦，啊若无吼，会甲你老爸同款啊，迄个查某敢若怪气啊。
From the grandmother's mouth, another hidden story emerged. Li Ming's father died when he was very young, and the cause was said to be a gunshot suicide. But in reality, he was hunted by the spirit of a deceased maid. It turned out that Master He, when he was young and promiscuous, had an affair with a maid in the house. When his wife found out after giving birth, to prove his loyalty, Master He agreed to kill the maid on a dark, moonless night. The couple plotted together and ordered 2 servants to throw the maid into a well, killing her. The maid, filled with grievances and injustice, returned as a vengeful ghost to torment the family. Whether it was Shengxin's fall into the well, Li Ming's drowning, or Dexin's mental breakdown, it was all caused by her. And now, with the house completely abandoned, it was finally the ghost's turn to take possession of it.